You're welcome to this session. This course unit is practices in education planning and administration. So we are looking at the practices that an education planner and the manager should have. So this course unit is also very central for one who is studying governance and financing in education, and also it is also very central for one who is studying institutional management, managing an institution. So in the first session, we are going to be focusing on the aspect of decision making in the manager's endeavors within this organization. And then we shall see what are the forms of decisions that a manager has to be aware about. So we shall see those three categories of decisions, but there are many decisions and several other decision models that one can actually find out in research. But in our lecture, we are going to focus on the three aspects of decision making. Then later, we shall have to look at the classifications of the principal's role, and then we shall continue from there. So in our first section, let us look at the decision making, and that is decision making and the principal's behavior. And so in this section, let us see the definition of decision making. So what do we call a decision? A decision, okay, this decision making is a process of selecting the best alternative from a pool of several alternatives. This means that a decision maker will have to be surrounded by many alternatives in all institutional activities, and the job of selecting the best alternative so that best alternative is implemented is actually what we are calling decision making. So it means that there must be an endeavor that a manager or a principal has got to undertake so that the best alternative is arrived at to minimize mistakes and ensure that the institution maintains its foundation, which is packaged in its mission, its vision, mission, objectives, and goals. So to have those implemented, there must be decisions taken every day. So that decision making is everyday affair of an institution or a manager of the institution. So that means that we need to identify these categories of decision making so that the manager can see which one to adopt, can also create your own decision making model. One of them is the rational decision making. Rational decision making. Such decisions are also called rational decisions. So when the manager is to make decisions, we have what we call rational decision making. So in a rational decision making, most importantly to note that these rotate around procedures and processes. So the decision is taken following the procedures and the already established processes. So anything outside those procedures and processes, the manager is reluctant to decide upon them because they are out of the established framework. So this means that the manager or the principal follows these decision making processes to undertake decisions. For this case, there is a model called decide. Decide, written in capital letter as an acronym, which defines what the principal or this manager actually considers while making decision. It follows the decide model. In decide, this is the process. D stands for define the problem. So the manager is asking himself, what is the problem? The problem must be defined before any action is taken. That's the first step of the process of making decision that the manager follows. Then the E stands for establish criteria of, and this criteria is two-way. The first criteria, how has the problem emerged? Establish the criteria, that is the E. So here we ask ourselves, how has the problem emerged? And then we also ask ourselves, what are the possible solutions to the problem? Then D, that now we are on C. Consider alternatives. That is the C. Consider alternatives. So what are those alternatives that are available that we can use to solve the problem? Then I on the acronym decide stands for identify the best alternative. Then D stands for develop a plan. Yes, develop a plan. Now you have found the best alternative, you have identified it. Now you've got to plan how to implement that alternative. That is the development of the plan. Then E stands for evaluation and monitoring. It is supposed to be monitoring and evaluation, but you wanted to make the word decide come out. Because you first monitor, then evaluate. Yes. Taking an example, if the manager had an issue, this principal is in a school and the prices of food are fluctuating, and then what was planned is not actually what is needed to be spent because the prices are fluctuating in the market. So there is a problem on food prices. Now, define the problem. Defining the problem tells us what is the actual problem. Is it because the prices have gone high, or is it because we are not the ones who are growing these beans and the maize? So what is actually the problem? Here, the manager or this principal is actually defining the problem. So at the level of problem definition, the manager has got to look for stakeholders to contribute ideas of what could be the cause of the problem. Now, when, for example, in all we have found that what is causing the problem, that's the criteria within which the problem is emerging, is that we are not having a farm. So we are dependent on the national prices of the food that we are consuming in school. Possibly in this meeting, which is diagonizing this problem, they will have to find either to have a farm for growing their own food, or to have a contractor supplying food on agreed prices, and that contract will show that prices should not shoot beyond these levels, or they are buying out of season. You're buying in a season of of is it a season when do the prices go high?
Off seasons.
What is off season?
Off season is when the farmers are not producing. For example, harvest periods. For example, now, off season is when the farmers are not producing. But they are planting. That's the planting time.
Okay. So when you buy when the farmers are actually planting, the prices are higher. So those are now alternatives from which you've got to seek the best alternative. Should we have a contractor to supply? Can we have a farm to produce by ourselves? That's in sourcing, or can we actually buy in bulk but in season when they are just harvesting? Are we buying a little? But if we bought like large volumes, they would attract discounts. Now that dialogue will consider you are collecting all the possible solutions to the problem. Then afterwards, you consider the best alternative. Then when you select the best alternative, you plan now for it. If it is getting a supplier, external can supply, you are working with Mandela Millers, who are producing supreme, okay, supplying the school. Then possibly you need uh, to have got information on what are their prices, what is the quality, and then have an agreement, a contract with them, those modalities of the contract you plan, and then how much they should supply. You also define in the plan. So you've made that the resolution to contract, but you have to set a plan on what you should do for it to be successful. Then afterwards, keep on monitoring the engagement to see and evaluating to see whether it has really reduced the problem, if it has solved the problem, or either the problem has reduced or it has been eliminated. Then there is also another model which the rational decision makers also follow, the 6R model. 6R. The first R, that they will not make final resolutions on decisions unless their minds have gone through this 6R. One, they have to the first R is resources. to them, resources have got to be defined. What the physical resources, financial resources, human resources, and other resources. Without identifying those resources, they will not make a final decision. Then they have also to set restrictions and restrictions. The other R is restrictions. Restrictions are hindrances. Yes. Mm. You set a restriction, a hindrance. In setting restrictions is two-way. The first set of restrictions is they found what are those hindrances that we may encounter while we take a decision. That's why the R, that restriction is also attached to another R. There is another R called risk assessment. That is another R, risk. Yes, risk assessment. If we took that decision, what are some of the risks associated with it? If, for example, our school wanted to have a farm, what if those are what ifs? What if the yields are not enough? What if we don't yield? What if the fire catches the garden? Those are the what if, those are the risks. You can have several risks. They will not make decisions unless they have really found the risks, which and found the mitigation strategies for the associated risks of all the alternatives that these are bringing out, the people are bringing up. Now, maybe with the restrictions, we had, yes, okay. What have we said on restrictions? We said restrictions, the first side is hindrance. So the second side is you set the regulations. That's why there is another R close to it. These R's move together. There's another R which is rules or regulations. There are also restrictions. So restrictions can be risks or restrictions. You can also cause internal restrictions to prevent the risks. You get it? By setting the rules or regulations so that when the decision is to be undertaken, it is undertaken within the what? Those rules. And then the other R is results. That they will not make decisions unless the results are predictable. What are the outcomes? They will ask even for some calculations. So those results have got to be predicted or anticipated. Then they also have to establish the reporting system. The reporting system. That's another R. The other R is reporting system. Okay. So we can now see that rational decision makers follow strict processes and procedures while undertaking their decisions. If any idea is brought that prompts them to make a decision, they go back and seek for this process. When they are satisfied with the process, then they will approve it and take action. And then we have discretionary decision making.
Only 5 hours. Was I remember 61 for regulations. Rules and regulations was another hour.
Results, it was under restriction.
It was resources.
Resources.
Restrictions, risk assessment, rules and regulations, all of those. Resource and reporting system.
Rules and regulations. Put it under restrictions.
Rules. Okay. Then now we have discretionary decisions or discretionary decision making. What is a discretion?
The discretion would be something that you reserve to yourself as a decision maker. You're not going to engage others in, in deliberating on the decision, but you make it yourself depending on the available circumstances.
So you're saying discretion is something you reserve the or everything to yourself.
Yes.
Okay. So in discretionary decision making, decisions are based on reasoning situations other than predetermined criteria. We are saying that I'm saying that decisions are based on reasoning situations other than previous criteria. Or predetermined criteria. So in decision making, which is discretionary, the decision maker does not need to visit criteria or to look at the processes. The decision maker needs only to look at is the decision suitable in the current circumstances at in the situations in which we are. If we took that decision, will it make reasonable outcomes? Even without going through the criteria and the processes, no, decision can be taken. So decisions are based on own judgment. According to how you view, how you feel, how you perceive how things will be, so you make the decision. So discretionary decision makers are usually viewed to be autocratic. Yes, they will listen to people's views, but the decision is in their hands. But rational decision makers are very bureaucratic. They are very bureaucratic. They go through, those are rational. They go through processes as the hierarchy as to uh, uh, is informing, and also as we agreed to solve such likely outcomes. Now, when it comes to discretionary decision makers, for them, they are saying the world is so vast and very complex. You cannot set procedures and processes for everything and for every situation. That is why the manager should be in a position where decisions are taken, where he or she can take decisions without necessarily looking for what are the processes, how do the rules say, and all that. Because the world is complex, you cannot set processes and procedures for each and every situation. That is why they believe that discretionary decision making should also be embraced within the management endeavors. Then the other is participatory decisions, or we can also call it participatory decision making. So in participatory decision making, these say that even though the processes are available, and also even though we can take discretionary or decisions based on our interpretation of the situation, no, we need to involve the stakeholders in the process. The stakeholders' views are very fundamental in participatory decision making. They argue that participatory decision makers argue that when stakeholders are not involved in making decisions, then they will be reluctant or passive in implementing the decisions or evaluating them. Stakeholders will always say that was their issue, it is them who came up with this idea. We are not concerned because we were not involved, we didn't take part. To implement decisions. So ownership of decisions and success of their implementation, that is widely dependent on the participatory levels and who has got involved in making such decisions.
For example, there was a time when our school wanted to buy a bus.
A bus?
Yes. So they invited our parents and discussed about the amount of money they were supposed to contribute. So as students, we are wondering if they called parents. Maybe they would have written in the circular that you're supposed to pay this amount of money next term for the bus. But instead they invited parents and discussed about the amount of money. Each parent was supposed to contribute. So at the end of that day, next time the parents were paying the money like they're not feeling anything.
Yes, because they were involved in taking the decision. And afterwards, they saw that it was really suitable. It was a solution. So,
they were complaining during the meeting. Why were they complaining? No, they're not complaining. They agree because HM asked them, how much do you think is fit for every parent to pay? So others are saying 10,000, others 100,000, others. So at the end of the meeting, they had agreed on how much. They and they're all satisfied.
Mm.
Even the parents that are so tough on money payment, they pay the money with it. Because they were there and they're instead of just putting in a such. Yes.
Mm. So that is participatory. In our earlier lectures, we saw that participatory decision making, as proposed by William Ouchi, proposes a ring, a round table, where every member of the organization at least has a representative to sit on that round table. The security officer, the in education, you can even have the cook, the cleaners, the class teacher or heads of departments, so that as you take the decisions, they will also inform you of the consequences that may not be seen or foreseen. So those possibilities in participatory decision making, everyone has to contribute ideas and even to planning. So it is very integrative in nature, and it embraces it also a democratic way of handling, but still the humanistic approach that you don't need to impose decisions on people, let them participate in making them, so that as they implement, they know the reason why, and also what exactly. You don't need to set many rules for them because they know what it entails to have that decision successful. Maybe to have some of the examples of discretionary decision making in schools. I would give an example of a head teacher who decides to suspend. We had a school which has suspended all 100 students in senior 4 and senior 6 at a go. And then I'm asking, could that have been a rational decision? Was it discretionary or participatory? Possibly it could have been discretionary. One took judgment based on his judgment of the situation and his or her personal reasoning of the situation. But if he had gone into a participatory mode again, he would have been advised otherwise. Either would have suspended them for a little period or would find other remedies other than a suspension that would still solve the problem. So, yet still in a rationalized decision-making environment, they would follow still the process. If we were to suspend a student, what do? You first have to, they should, you should get a hearing of the student to the committee, a disciplinary committee. You see that process. Then when the disciplinary committee has made a resolution, we invite the parent maybe still to be heard until a final decision is taken. In a government setup, suspending students has legal implications. It is provided for in the what? In the Education Act. And the process is defined out there to make sure that you make decisions rationally. They are making sure that you reduce on discretionary decision making and adopt either rational or participatory. In participatory, you must have involved either the school management committee or the board of governors, if that is a secondary school. That is the decision-making process. However, there is also what we call intuitive decision making, which int- intuitive comes from the word intuit. Intuit. So intuitive decision making is also very close to discretionary decisions. In an intuitive decision making environment are taken based on feelings and unconscious dimensions. Based on feelings and unconscious dimensions other than reasoning. Unconscious dimensions. This is paradise. Even men can encounter it other than reasoning. You see, when you go to a school, maybe you contracted people to construct a what? A block, and they have made the foundation which is smaller than what you wished. You go and demolish. You demolish either in their presence or in their absence. So now you will not have looked at the cost of the bricks. You will not have looked at the cement, the the time, the labor. You also not have looked at the hearts of those who actually laid their lives to do that work, which is called shedding. Yes? Yes? What is that thing?
I was telling her, we manipulated the hair. Having plaited the son was ugly. I said, you want to plait. And I paid money. I went out with the son. After paying the person who played.
You went and
They plaited me. And I was far off from the mirror. All I see my in the mirror. I said, no, no, no. Mr. Ssebuyungo, in terms of schools, there is a head teacher I worked with. And now his stories run all over the country. The former teacher, this one was suspended from one campus. I worked with him at one time. He falls under that one. They can go to his office and he had his informers, people who know. They could tell him that one, but he was backbiting him. He stops greeting that teacher. He can even go to the table and remove lessons from him. Just after being told that somebody was backbiting him.
Yes.
You even go to his office and greet him. Good morning, sir. And he doesn't reply. Every month, he used to work in the government school. But every month, he could make the best slip of his own, best PTA. You will not be backbiting him, you are not on the best slip. Even teachers were paid for rent. Anything negative about you, you don't receive rent. You go to the pastor and say, your name is on the list. Or when you come tomorrow morning to teach, you go to your class, you find another teacher. Going to a timetable,
you are not there.
Just because you was told that somebody was backbiting. Even if you are the most hardworking teacher in the institution, if he gets anything about you, even removes you from the office, so that one was open for more company.
There is A teacher.
Just on feelings.
For
me, I went to the other school. I was part-time the first staff meeting, the melody. Now the teacher, they were what? They are having a meeting, and they are saying that each distinction, some money, and each A. This was an old teacher, Uganda teacher. And he had told some of the people on the staff, like me, I did with my teacher who told me how to do it. Now, this was an old teacher. This teacher raised, Mr. Master. The man of our Ezadi, distinctions, every year we have been getting. Then he said, you with that empty head, how much do you contribute to those A's? And then, just because when he was coming, he showed some sort of resistance, being an old student and also being old in the system. He became an enemy from day one, but he couldn't make him exit because he was on government. So, in the staff meeting, he said, you with that empty head. And the man was even older than him. So many teachers here. That head teacher here follows him.
So in
we have never seen the other teachers. In a government school, no wonder he was because from the other school he was just by all the students. Go, but he's like, then when he came to the camera, also those who said, but now he's stay there for long. No, where is he? They told him to go to a very small school in Busoga, but he refused. I think he's testing for early retirement. But he was, remember that story.
So in decision making, we have so we in decision making, you cannot avoid alternatives. And because you can't avoid alternatives, so you need to have options or the best options so that you select one which is the best from those alternatives. Now, there are some things we focus on here. One of the aspect is called prioritizing. When we collect alternatives, we now put these alternatives on a scale of what is important versus what is urgent. What is important against what is urgent. Importance first, then urgency next. So it is urgent, it is important.
It is urgent first. Yes.
No, something can be urgent but not important. It is importance first.
There's something which cannot delay.
But your position can also be considered in some environments. Remember, we are saying that decision making, you also need to look at the situations. Maybe in some situations, you can say what is important and what is urgent. So we are using what is important. So we have what could be important and not important. We have divided it now. It can be important, the alternative can be important, or there is also a possibility that an alternative is not important. Then on the side of urgency, the alternative can be urgent or not urgent. Then now we want to create a relationship. Is it important? Yes, it is important. Is it urgent or not urgent? Then it is important and urgent. Important plus urgent. Important. Is it urgent? It is important but not urgent. Yes, it is important. It is not important but still not also urgent. Not important and not urgent. Then not important but it is urgent. Not important but it is urgent. Now here is now where we get to see which one should we consider first. Prioritizing, one would set a priority, what is important and urgent. Do it immediately. They should be immediate. Sorry? If the alternative you are making a decision upon is put on the scale and the decision makers or the decision maker identifies that the alternative is important and it is also urgent, then the actions must be immediate. When you find that it is important and it is not urgent, then the actions can be delayed. You can delay the action. That means they can be long term or not immediate term or short term. You consider it, but not in a short and immediate term. Then not important and not urgent, these ones we can eliminate, not so. Not important but urgent. What do we do now?
You can look at available resources.
Which action should the manager take now? The principle is now the issue. Someone is pressing, there's pressure, but it is not very important. So these are the can wait. These ones can wait. Or otherwise, the manager can also ignore them. Or they can be given partial attention.
I want to give an example, Mr. Ssebuyungo. Important and urgent. Saving a teacher's life.
After the teacher is sick or what?
The teacher may collapse. Then you have money in the office, and maybe it is for various activities. You get that money. For example, got an instance. Our teacher became unconscious in his house. They rushed him to the hospital, Bomba Barracks, and they said high pressure, and they discovered sugar, that one, sugar. He didn't know that he has it. So now they cannot say that now if the students don't have porridge, it is urgent and important to save the child's life. Then also naked wires of electricity in the school. They can kill a student anytime. Urgent and important.
Students' meals.
Yeah, that one at least you can borrow the bunga and
Safety, for example, safety versus meals. Now safety becomes urgent.
Then you can borrow the portion, the flour, and bury it.
Shuffle.
So these ones that can delay, you can delegate.
Important but not urgent. Sports field in a school. No, it is important but not urgent.
Looking at it, for example, look at the importance of sports in school. You know that those sports.
It is important but not urgent.
Depending on the size of the school you have. When you send children for sports, what control mechanisms do they bring to school? When it depends on what you have.
Yes.
I think what one institution may not work in another, depending on how things are set. For example, if a teacher is sick in a private school and the learners don't have food, some directors may decide to set up for the learners first because they are the ones that make business. So the teacher can be good for any other place. But give another teacher if you can. I'm saying just in some other institutions, like special private, they take the learner as the first customer who can create it. In other words, what works in one institution may not work in another institution, depending on the audience and how you group out things and the culture.
The culture is also affecting.
Yes.
And the objectives of the institution as well. Okay. There is also a scale, which the scale of willingness. This is the scale. Willingness versus ability. Willingness, I can call it interest. Versus ability. Which one can call potential? So on the side of willingness, I'm saying one can be willing to do, another one can be unwilling to do that thing. Then there is also ability to do, and I'm going to concoct a word here, put it in quotes, unable. So able, unable, able and unable. Could be because of resources and also because of their skills. Building ability, but interest and or willingness is an attitude issue or a perspective issue. Perspective. Now, one can be willing and able. Okay? Willing and able to do that thing. Most especially. But another one can be unwilling, but is what? is able. The other can be willing but unable. Then we also have a situation where someone is unwilling but also unable to do that activity or to decide on that activity. So, in an environment where there is willingness and ability together, most especially decision making becomes easy, and even implementation of activities, because everyone is eager and also there is potential to do. But where the willingness is not there, there's unwilling but ability is there, even if it was increasing people's salaries and the institution is making enough money to support the increase, if willingness is not there in the manager or the administration, even if you complain, you demonstrate, the ability is there, but willingness is not there. So or especially these ones will always reject unwilling and able. They will reject taking such a decision because they have no interest. They always explain, they can even explain in terms of ability, but when it is not actually ability, but is actually interest or willingness. Then those who are willing and unable, it is said that it is possible to convert these people who are unwilling but unable to become willing and able than the ones who are unwilling but able. Because the will, it is easy for one who has the interest to work towards being able than one who does not have interest to be able to get that interest. You need more efforts. So this one is who is willing but unable will be wishful. Wishes, and usually they extend the decision to the time where they feel it will be possible to when they feel they will be able. So there is somehow a postponement of what to be done because there is willingness. They even can promise based on willingness, because it's only that because they are unable, because they are unable but willing, they can make a promise. If we do this and the other, there's no problem. We can go ahead. But those who are unwilling and unable, what situation is that? The interest is not there, even the ability is not there. Yes, they will not do anything, not even give attention to any matter.
In US school.
So this is a willingness, ability, scale, and of priorities, and this one is an importance versus urgency scale of setting priorities. So we are closing our session here. Then we go to the next session of classification of principles roles. after we have made those decisions. Someone is making a decision to have a commercial break. Is it participatory, discretionary, or rational? It's intuitive.